Shooting in Minneapolis ended with one man dead and two others injured.
It happened near the busy intersection of Franklin and Chicago Avenue around 1 a.m. Our crew saw a shattered window of a nearby building and evidence markers throughout the scene. We still don't know what led up to the shooting, if police have a suspect, or the status of the two people injured. After 42 days, possible good news for TSA workers. They're one step closer to finally getting paid. The Senate approved a measure to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security, giving in to Democrats' key demand to keep ICE separate.
CBS News' Jared Hill tells us how the measure moves a step closer to ending this partial government shutdown and again getting those TSA workers paid.
Soon possible relief to frustration at the nation's airports.
I just really upset with Congress for not doing their job to fund DHS so we can get rid of this mess.
Early Friday, the Senate passed a bill to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security, leaving ICE for later.
Democrats held firm in our opposition that Donald Trump's rogue and deadly militia should not get more funding without serious reforms, and we will continue to fight.
Democrats got their issue, I guess. And in the process, they are irreparably damaging the appropriations process.
It comes hours after President Trump said he was directing his new Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, to pay the thousands of TSA workers who've gone over a month without a check. They're set to miss another today.
They need to end the shutdown immediately, or we'll have to take some very drastic measures.
Democratic leaders questioned what took the president so long to step in.
He's always had this ability, but clearly he wanted to hold TSA agents and the American people hostage.
The Senate bill now moves to the House. Jared Hill, CBS News.
A shooting in Minneapolis ended with one man dead and two others injured.
It happened near the busy intersection of Franklin and Chicago Avenue around 1 a.m. Our crew saw a shattered window of a nearby building and evidence markers throughout the scene. We still don't know what led up to the shooting, if police have a suspect, or the status of the two people injured.
It is 6:03. Let's check in at the live desk because Maria Lisignolia is joining us. You're tracking this new federal push to battle fraud, which has been a big concern.
Absolutely. We're still working to get the details on what exactly this will mean, especially for Minnesota. But we do know Vice President J.D. Vance will host the first meeting of the task force to eliminate fraud. It's happening today at the White House. The vice president will be joined by a number of cabinet secretaries and senior administration officials. This is an initiative by the president. He announced it last month during his State of the Union address, and he signed an executive order to create the task force just weeks ago. The fraud crisis in Minnesota has been a big focus for the Trump administration, and a big part of all of that is Medicaid. So we're going to be taking a look back at the funding freeze and where things stand right now in our state. That's coming up in our next half hour.
All right, look forward to it. Thank you, Maria. Other headlines this morning, a federal judge is extending her order to require access to lawyers for Minnesota immigration detainees.
This access is required immediately after they're arrested and before they are transferred out of the state. U.S. District Judge Nancy Brazel issued the preliminary injunction, which makes quick and private communication with lawyers a requirement. This follows a temporary restraining order we told you about in February, where she said it appeared the federal agency had failed to plan for how to protect constitutional rights of detainees.
In her decision, the judge wrote, quote, ICE recognizes detainees' right to access counsel in theory and written policy, but not in practice. Instead, it has placed obstacle after obstacle in front of detainees and their attorneys, blocking communication between clients and counsel.
Sources tell CBS News the Justice Department has issued a grand jury subpoena for dozens of Minnesota voting records. The subpoenas allege more than 125 people voted illegally. Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon has repeatedly refuted the Trump administration's claims that non-citizens are casting ballots here. Simon points to a University of St. Thomas study finding it's extremely rare in Minnesota. Of more than 13 million votes cast between 2015 and 2024, the study found only 3 non-citizens voted.
3 too many. We want it to be 0. I do, and everyone watching does. But that is really, really good. 3 out of 13.4 million. That means it's really microscopic.
Is separate from another legal battle where the Trump administration is suing Minnesota and 28 other states to turn over their voter rolls. Minnesota and other states have refused, citing the Constitution and privacy concerns.
The latest No Kings rally. It's expected to draw 100,000 people to the city of St. Paul. Big stars like Bruce Springsteen, Jane Fonda are joining local leaders at the Capitol for the rally, and smaller protests have already gotten underway. Matter of fact, these protesters lined the 35W bridge in Minneapolis and other spots yesterday, hoping to push even more people to Saturday's rally.
When people show up, democracy starts to happen. It's not just one day, but one day is the beginning of that.
WCCO's live coverage of the rally, traffic disruptions, and more. That begins at 2 p.m. tomorrow. It'll stream on CBS News Minnesota along with our YouTube channel. Now to the latest on the ongoing war with Iran, because President Trump says the Iranian regime is more than ready to bring the conflict to a close.
But the Iranians are insisting they aren't involved in any negotiations. On Thursday, President Trump announced he's extending his self-imposed pause on striking Iran's energy plants. The deadline now is April 6th. Economists say they expect the war to cause inflation to jump more than 4% this year. They also expect mortgage rates to be higher. And the gift from Iran that President Trump had teased earlier this week has been revealed. 10 oil tankers were able to flow through the Strait of Hormuz. Since the start of the conflict, traffic has been down 90 to 95% in that critical waterway.
This federal push to battle more of the fraud crisis here in Minnesota. Maria?
Yes, that's right. Happening today at the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance will host the first meeting of the task force to eliminate fraud. The vice president will be joined by a number of cabinet secretaries and senior administration officials. This is an initiative announced by the president last month during his State of the Union address and he actually signed an executive order to create the task force just weeks ago. The fraud crisis in Minnesota has been a big focus for the Trump administration. We've been following a funding freeze that has now turned into a court battle. This is after the federal government announced it would withhold hundreds of millions in Medicaid payments in Minnesota. Dr. Mehmet Oz, the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, said in February that the funds stemmed from provider payments made in 14 services that the State Department of Human Services identified as high risk for fraud. But a federal judge heard a motion earlier this month where the Minnesota Attorney General's office said they're stuck. They don't know what proof or action the federal government wants in order to get the Medicaid funding back. We'll be following today's meeting and how it impacts Minnesotans, the fraud crisis, and the millions of dollars currently put on hold.
A lot of people interested in that update. Thanks, Maria. Let's check in with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames. We've got some cold today and some wind tomorrow and some warmth on the other side of that.
A little bit of everything coming up. You know, just on Monday I was outside with a t-shirt on and this morning, I mean, you have to have a heavier winter jacket. Yeah, it changes so quickly in the month of March. So what's going on? I have high pressure up to the northwest, which is actually going to scoot some of the clouds out of here that we're waking up to this morning. There's definitely going to be some clouds around to kind of kick off the day, but there's cold air that has seeped on in. Now down south here, you see all these showers and that action down there. That's all part of a front, and north of that front, cold winter-like air. Down south, below that front, warm air, and along that boundary is where they're seeing showers and storms. Here's another view of that, but I've factored in the feels-like temperature. And because of the wind this morning, it feels like 19 in Chicago. It feels like 21. I mean, there's just a lot of cold air splitting across the United States. I'll take us back to our state, though. Let's make it local. I have 6 right there in Grand Rapids and 1 for Bemidji when you factor in the wind and the air. And so when you're going out this morning, yes, it's not a t-shirt type of morning. This is, again, winter weather. It's going to feel like we went back in time like a couple weeks to something that's a little bit colder. Obviously, the clouds are over the top of us. You could see that from our view. It's not the sunniest start to the day, but we will work through those clouds eventually, and we'll bring in some sunshine. I think it's more so going to take till at least mid-morning, and then a better bet for some sun as we head into the afternoon there. Neighborhood highs across the area, mid to upper 30s, Waconia 34, barely hitting freezing, and just maybe a degree or 2 above that once you start heading up to the north and northwest. So today is obviously going to be cold. Now, Barrett kind of, brushed up on some of this. Saturday, we have wind moving in, and it's going to be very dry. So fire concerns are definitely there for Saturday. And then we head into Sunday, and we're much nicer out there. It's going to be not as windy It's going to be mild outside. It's going to be nice and sunny as well. Okay, here's our view outside. I mean, it's a little breezy out there, and unfortunately, the wind's going to get stronger. And unfortunately, we're doing it with some cold air. So we are just putting it all together. Yes, we have the sunshine today, and yes, it is a Friday, but when you factor in the wind, you factor in the cold air, it's not feeling great outside. It's just a day that you have to wear something that's a little bit heavier. And it may be, I was looking into the forecast and just thinking about it a little bit more. It may be the coldest day that we have for a bit, because it's going to get harder and harder to only keep our temperatures in the 30s for an afternoon, or the 20s up north. As we start approaching April, we obviously could get some warm days, and maybe we have some warm pockets for like a morning or a night, but to keep us in the 30s is going to be tough. So this might be one of the coldest ones for a while. Like I say, it's the coldest day that I have coming up in our 7-day forecast, and we're going to be doing that today. All right, it is going to be windy and dry to also start the weekend, so we're going to keep some of the wind tomorrow. It's going to shift out of the south, which is going to help out our temperatures, but it's going to kind of boost our fire concern outside. It's going to be very dry and very windy, so we're kind of getting into fire season, I guess you could say, and tomorrow is going to be a day that we're concerned about that. I have another quick warm-up, though, right behind it, just a little snap where we're going to see our temperatures back in the 60s and maybe even the 70s, and then I am eyeing maybe a day or two next week for some rain and probably seasonable temperatures, which is in the upper 40s to about 50 degrees now. Nice to see the clouds clearing out, though. That is great. Below average today, but we end up warming up. And notice by the time we head into our Sunday, we have red boxes and positive numbers, which is telling us, hey, in the cities on Sunday, or in Owatonna on Sunday, will be about 15 to 20 degrees above average for our average high, which I said was in the upper 40s. That puts us well into the 60s by Sunday. Here's our frontal boundary down to the south. Everything up to the north here is going to be on the cooler side. Down to the south is going to be a little warmer. And along that boundary there, we have showers and maybe some storms for us. Just a little disturbance clipping on through that brought in the clouds this morning, maybe a couple flurries in western Wisconsin. Yesterday we had the rain, but then you saw how far that system went. And we are not dealing with that anymore this morning. At the airport, just a trace, but the North Metro yesterday had like anywhere from about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, and some of you even had a little bit more than that. Let's throw in the details for our potential precipitation, though, over the next 7 days. There's a little something that's going to pass on by across the state, though, kind of a gap over the area of Minnesota and into areas of Canada, where all the moisture seems to be and all the action coming up over the next 7 days. It's going to be south and east of us, or maybe through some of the mountains out to the west. So when can we actually get a little something around here to throw some rain into the forecast? Right now, tentatively, I'm going with probably Monday night. You can see 4 p.m., some rain up north. That system swings on through. It doesn't look to be too powerful. It just looks like we may just get something light out of this. Clears out. Then high pressure moves back in, and that will keep us a little bit cooler as we go into around midweek next week. So this is what it looks like when we put the whole package together. 37 today, obviously the coldest day. That windy and dry day Saturday, up to the 60s on Sunday. I'm going with 71 now on Monday before we cool down a little bit Tuesday. I'm back into the 40s on Wednesday and Thursday. You know what? I would not care if we don't see another 30-degree day. If this is the last one that we have for this season, that's completely fine with me. Maybe 70 degrees by Monday.
That's our third one this month.
Maybe the third one this month if we get it. So yeah, it just tells you we've had a blizzard tucked into the month too. We've done everything this month. It's been wild.
Joseph, thank you.
Gas prices continue to climb, so you may be looking for every way possible to make a gallon of gas go a little further.
We've got a person who can help you out. Richard Herod, Car Soup, I should say, ambassador. I know you've got some tips when it comes to maximizing the fuel economy on your car. Thank you so much for joining us. This is such a timely topic right now.
My pleasure.
So you've got 5 gas guzzling habits that we do right now. The first one, you say ignoring your odometer. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, you can't only focus on how many miles you're getting. You need to focus on your speedometer, how fast you are driving. Right? Because the faster you drive, sometimes the more fuel you burn. So, in my vehicle, 62 miles per hour is the optimal speed on the highway. As long as I'm not speeding for that 62 miles an hour.
So wouldn't that mean then, if that's the case, that people actually should be leaving earlier or later to get to their destination. That way they don't have to speed. That's to your what's kind of point
exactly.
you're making there?
The stop and go traffic, unless you have a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or an EV, those vehicles thrive in stop and go traffic. But if you're in stop and go traffic in a regular internal combustion engine vehicle, that can drag your fuel mileage way down.
Okay, so tip number 2, never using or owning a tire pressure gauge. What do you mean by that?
Well, everyone, it's like you buy a new car, you get excited, maybe you leave the tire pressure gauge out. And in the wintertime, it's really easy to ignore that low tire pressure light.
Yeah.
Okay. In that scenario, when your tires are low, you're burning more fuel. In addition, it's not as safe. So, cold air, rapidly changing temperatures. I mean, Minnesota is notorious for the 100 degrees change in temperature in days. That's
As
Minnesota.
we're seeing,
That's Minnesota. Well, when air, leaves your tires and they're underinflated, you burn money. So have a tire pressure gauge. Make sure you're checking it. And if your light's on, it might not be because it's just cold. Your tires might actually be low.
Right.
I'll tell you what, we got a lot of hockey families here, Richard. We got a lot of hockey families, which means a lot of hockey equipment. You say the trunk is not a good idea to put that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's look at everything you're storing in your car. I mean, obviously in the wintertime, if you need to put sandbags in the car because you have a rear-wheel drive car, well, that's different. But if you're leaving hockey equipment, if you're leaving unnecessary storage items in your car, removing pounds from the car can actually increase your fuel mileage. I mean, all these little things can make a massive difference in how much you pay at the pump.
Oh yeah, it adds up. Okay, another gas guzzling habit, endless idling.
Oh goodness, yeah. So remote starting your vehicle, right? All winter, right? We've gotten in the habit of preheating our vehicles. Well, when it's above freezing, do we really need to preheat that vehicle once or twice?
Right.
I do love it. If you have heated seats or heated steering wheel,
a
little bit easier, but all of that idling time or while you're going to pick up kids at school, right? Turn off the vehicle for that 5 to 10 minutes while you're waiting, because every moment the car is on that you're not moving, you're wasting fuel.
And we talked about the last one, but the daily hour rush hour traffic, if you can leave a little bit earlier or a little bit later, that could actually help with the fuel economy of your vehicle because you don't have to speed as much.
Well, sure. I mean, vehicles, again, unless you're driving a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, stop and go traffic eats through your mileage.
Yeah, it really does. All these little things, as we talked about before during the first break, this all adds up. It can save you big money too.
Well, every little bit helps.
It sure does.
And who knows where gas prices are going to go.
Right, yeah.
To be continued. Richard, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
And today's Friday Fish Fry takes us to Stock and Bond right in downtown Minneapolis. Chef Matt Leverty and the GM Craig Stuck join us now. Great to see you both this morning, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Okay, before we get to you, Craig, let's start with you, Chef, because I've been looking, I was just asking you, this shrimp here, this is not even jumbo shrimp. This is like
colossal.
This is colossal shrimp here.
Colossal shrimp, yeah.
What are you guys doing when it comes to Friday Fish Fry?
So yeah, I mean, obviously Stock and Bond is a steakhouse, so you have that traditional fare, but we've been seeing a ton of diners here on Fridays that have been enjoying our seafood, but particularly our raw and cold seafood preparation. Okay. So that's what I have for you today.
I was going to say, I actually saw this on your Instagram page too. This is the tuna.
That's our tuna tartare. So we have some beautiful bluefin tuna. And we've just lightly dressed it with a little bit of a tomato vinaigrette, some capers, and then some wonton crisp. So it's really light and refreshing. I would say nice for a warm day, but we're not having a really warm day today.
I don't know why you need to bring that up.
Yeah, come on now.
But yeah, then we also have some, one of our signature dishes was our salmon crispy rice. So we have some beautiful sushi grade salmon, that we have some crispy fried rice pieces, a little bit of sriracha mayo, and it gives you a nice kind of cold and hot balance. They're really delicious too. And then the colossal shrimp.
And the colossal shrimp, which is as big as your head, it seems like now.
Yeah, that is something. Big. Yeah, that is something that we really want to make known is obviously the quality of the seafood, but then just the wow factor of it as well. So yeah, we go colossal for and bigger is better when it comes to shrimp.
There you go. Bigger is better.
Craig, you're the GM. And you were last on the show. You were last on the show in October.
Yeah.
If you have not been to Stock and Bond before, I mean, when you first walk in there, I mean, the ceiling is immaculate. Tell people about that space in there.
It's a really special space. 1941. It was the Farmers and Mechanics Bank, and the fact that they made this space for a bank always blows my mind.
Yeah.
38-foot ceilings. It's just massive. It's grand. There's no other space like it in Minneapolis that I know about. But yeah, it's stunning, and they did a really great full renovation that we took advantage of and opened up in August of 2025. They really did a great job. Kind of brought it back to its Art Deco roots and banker roots. It's thematic throughout. It's gorgeous space.
Okay. I see you've got some wine over here too. What wine goes well with this?
Well, I mean, hey, listen, we're known for our whiskey, and it is International Whiskey Day.
But that's later on the show.
If we're doing some of this, you know, I'd be going for, this is a Puy Fumé, so Sauvignon Blanc from Loire Valley. Oh. Gorgeous. So you're looking at some steely, flinty, a little smoky.
Yeah.
My favorite, Chablis. Again, steely and big minerality. Really builds on any of these three dishes. So
fabulous.
I would start with this, and then I'd move into a whiskey or a scotch.
Okay. We know Easter is just around the corner.
Yeah.
What do you have going on? What do you have cooking for that?
Chef has a couple specials that we're going to be featuring on Easter, and so go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing, you know, when I think of Easter, I think of spring, and I love lamb. So we're doing some spring lamb, a couple different ways for dinner, but then we're also doing, obviously Easter is a huge brunch day.
Of course.
So we're doing some brunch specials as well. We're going to focus on, we're going to do a Maine lobster Benedict, which is going to be a full tail of Maine lobster in egg Benedict form. So like I said, everything kind of wow factor. So we're gonna really play on that again.
Real quick, you guys are located downtown Minneapolis. Give people your location for people looking to come.
88 South 6th Street. We're within the same building as the Westin, so right on the corner of Marquette and 6th.
There you go. All right.
Great.
Right in the
Thank
heart
you,
of it.
gentlemen.
Go check them out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You may be familiar with a few brands of whiskey, but on this International Whiskey Day, we're learning more about this favorite spirit.
Oh, I've recognized some of those spirits up there.
I know a few of those.
Patrick Fooney, the bartender from Gianni's Steakhouse, is here with us this morning. It's great to have you in. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I asked you this basic question like during the commercial break. And this is actually a loaded question. What makes a good whiskey?
I would say the mash bill, the quality of the oak barrels, the time that it spends in the oak, where it's stored in the rick house. There's so many different variables that can contribute to a great whiskey.
Okay, all right.
All comes down to how it's made, right?
Yes, correct.
Talk about that process for someone who doesn't know, like me. I
mean, you're going to a bartender here, yeah.
So, different whiskeys have different mash builds. All whiskeys come from a grain mash build. So you have a single malt scotch, which is 100% barley. You have a bourbon, which is 51% corn. You have rye whiskey, which is 50% rye. Then you also Irish whiskey, which is usually triple distilled. It is aged in a already used barrel, typically a bourbon barrel, actually.
Okay. So what, are you going to make a drink for us now? What do you want to make for us now?
So we're going to make an old fashioned here first.
Okay.
Gianni's, we like to use our Buffalo Trace. We sort of make our own syrup in-house. And we've sort of found that the Buffalo Trace pairs the best with it.
Okay.
All right.
We were asking this question before because I saw you got the square cubes of ice. Does ice make a difference here?
Ice makes a huge difference. So we use the big cubes because there's less surface area, so it dilutes the drink slower.
Oh. All right.
So our syrup here that I'm using, we actually sell at Gianni's as well.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It's not the typical 1920s old-fashioned.
Sure.
We actually use two different types of cherry, two different types of sugar, a little vanilla bean, rosemary, cinnamon.
Yeah.
Adds a little bit more flavor, a little more complexity to the drink.
When I taste it, like for example, if someone who's not familiar with whiskey, what am I looking for when it comes to the actual taste itself?
A little vanilla, chocolates, the oak from the barrel.
I should be able to taste hints of all these things when I mix it up. Okay.
Which bourbon has to be new charred American oak. Brand new barrels, you can't reuse barrels for bourbon.
All this criteria that goes into it too.
Who knew? My goodness. Okay. Now you gotta shake it up.
Oh, no shaking.
You just pour it out.
Yeah. Pretty much with any whiskey cocktail, unless you're using like a fresh juice for sour, you want to stir it so you don't over dilute it.
Okay.
So we're gonna hit this with a little orange peel.
Yeah.
Just give that a little zest.
Oh, all right.
And I like this.
And then a Luxardo cherry to top it off.
Oh yeah, you need the cherry too.
Okay. Would you like to try this, Barrett, or?
AJ, I'm gonna let you do it.
Okay. What?
Happy Friday to you. Yeah.
Secondly, I'm gonna get going on the Manhattan here.
Oh, it's so good when it hits your lips too.